Hello Phantom shipmates. It's been a couple of years since I uploaded a video last, and now I've embarked on a trip that I thought might be worth filming. Today is Thursday 17th of August 2023, and this is my third day of my voyage. I don't have a precise destination. I left my home port of Skagerrak 2 days ago at 4 in the afternoon, and then I sailed for 25 hours straight to reach Skagen, which is the northern tip of Denmark. That was a really nice trip with fresh wind, so it was a good start. I then slept all day or all night after I arrived yesterday, and got up, made some bread, made myself some breakfast, and slept some more. And now I'm on the second part, which is going to take me west from Skagen to Norway. And my plan so far is to go to Farsund. That's just past the headland of Lindenes, which can be very difficult to round, but today I have perfect wind for doing it. Last year we tried to go to Stavanger in Norway, but had to give up because it was just one gale after the other, and Lindenes is a very dangerous place to round in bad weather. So we had to give up last year, and now this is my second attempt. And this time it looks really good. So I'm going to sail to past Lindenes and go into Farsund if all goes well. That'll be a trip of about 135 nautical miles. So I plan to sail throughout the night like I did on the first leg of the journey, and then sail throughout tomorrow. And according to Sailgrip, the weather outing software I use, I should arrive around 6:30 p.m. tomorrow at Farsund. But you know, this is sailing, so anything can happen. But it's lovely to be out on some decent trips again. Skagerrak can be one nasty piece of water when the wind is really howling up here, but this is so peaceful that it's barely recognizable. It is 7:45 p.m. and the sun sets at 9:02, so I have 5/4 left till sunset. So I think this would be a good time to go down and warm some food. Come along with me. Let's see what we have for dinner. It will be the last third of this lovely flan that Joan has made for me before I left. Look at that. That's going to be great. So it has had 15 minutes now in the oven. Oh, I wish you could smell this. It is lovely, lovely, lovely. Yum, yum, yum. So we need a plate. And yes, I use real porcelain plates in weather like this. I find it much nicer than the real knife and fork. And then we just transfer this over here. Unfortunately, I finished all the salad yesterday, so it'll be this, but it'll be great. And then that goes into the bin. and then we serve it through the hatch in the aft cabin. So turn off the gas. That's in here. Then it goes up there. And we also need something to drink. And the only thing I drink when I sail, when I'm in charge of the boat, is water. And of course, if you're sailing throughout the night, it's the only thing that you really want to drink. So, fresh water from the stainless steel tanks. I clean them with vinegar once a year, so they are spotless. Perfect. So, let me just turn this so maybe you can see better what happens here. There, maybe I go through to here, open the hatch, and up it goes. Dinner is served. That was a lovely dinner. One of the wonderful things about a moderate breeze is that you can keep the galley tidy without being thrown about or breaking the porcelain. We have hot water thanks to the engine that heats the water. Also, there's an electric water heater. So, and there's an electric pump that pumps the water up here. So it's really just like in the kitchen at home when you do the dishes by hand. And my experience is that the more you can just make these longish sailing trips be like ordinary life on land, the longer you can go on and not be terribly tired. I expect to have to be awake all night tonight, and as I explained, I was awake all night 2 nights ago as well. And the only way you can do that is to have a very simple lifestyle. No unnecessary complications. Eat, sleep, rest, and prepare your sailing thoroughly. Don't stress. Get as much rest as you can during the daytime, and then your chances of getting through it are pretty good. In fact, it's very enjoyable. We shall see. 4 minutes to 9, so the sun is about to set, and that means that I now go through my sunset routine, which I'll now describe to you. If a lot of wind was forecast, I would be reefing the sails now, but I'm so used to reefing them at night now that I think I will just wait and see. I will probably have to reef. They have forecast fresh winds sometime during the night, but I want to get everything out of this nice breeze we have here, even though that means reefing at night. But that's one thing I would do. Then I would turn the solar panels to horizontal, to vertical. That's a safety measure, because I have had a panel torn off in the Atlantic once by a rogue wave. I don't want that to happen again. And it also improves the space to move about on the boat at night, which is useful. Then downstairs. We need some light here. I have to turn on the tricolor lights at the masthead. I have to turn on the instrument lights in the cockpit. And I'm not going to use the radar. I have power on it, and also I turn on the VHF radio when I'm below deck, but there's no need to have it on while I'm in the cockpit. Then I check the bills to see if there's any water. There shouldn't be there. It looks pretty dry, so that's all right. And then I look in my app for the solar panels and record how much power they generated during the day and record it in my logbook to just as a check that the panels are working as they should. And I also check the battery status. We are currently, let's see, 5.7 amp hours from a full battery. So that's a good way to enter the night. Hardly any power used from the batteries at this stage. It's even on a trip that's only 24 hours, 25 hours, you're well advised to keep a close eye on the battery, of course. It's easy to use much more power than you realize if you're not paying attention. For example, by running the electric autopilot a lot, or forgetting to switch off the various appliances, like the gas solenoid. But for now, the wind pilot is steering, sailing us due west towards Norway. And last thing I should point out is that I of course dress up for the night by putting on warmer clothes and wearing a headlamp all the time, as I need that for adjusting the wind pilot. Let me show you how that works. So down there is a scale which indicates the relative angle to the wind that you want the wind vane to keep, and that's adjusted by this, and I need to be able to do it at night, which is why I need a lamp to shine on it at night. And I got an alarm. It's gone already. It must have been a collision alarm. There are quite a few ships ahead in the sunset, but with the AIS system I get adequate warnings for all the big boats, all the ships, so that helps a lot. Anyway, with that, I'll be ready for the night. Well, this was very gentlemanly of this captain of this big freighter. We were sort of on collision course, although I had taken over doing the hand steering to make it clear that I was going to pass him starboard to starboard. But nonetheless, he actually changed course a few degrees, so we now have lots of space between us. That's nice. I mean, it's what the law says, but still, I was quite happy to fall off a little bit, which was what I did. But he decided to turn anyway. So it's 11:30 at night now, and the sun has completely disappeared. It's dark. We have a beautiful star, bright night. 00:20 in the morning, and I'm just checking the old B&G Instruments 1986 model, and this computer has calculated that we are at 83% reaching performance. That is, we are doing 83% of what the boat can optimally do. We should have a spinnaker up, I guess, to get much higher performance, and I'm not going to do that at night, certainly. What I am going to do is to go below deck and have myself a little snack. On with the night lights. There. I'll find a banana down somewhere here. That's it. Together with a cup of coffee. And I'll be good for another couple of hours. Well, this was a bit of excitement. Had to do quite a few maneuvers to dodge two trawlers. So you see here I came sailing west. I then had to turn sharp south to avoid the first trawler. Then I sailed on for a little while, and then I had to make another sharp turn and then arc around this trawler here. So it's a little bit exciting. I spoke to the first one and he was on the radio. The second one didn't answer on the radio, but they want a distance of 0.4 nautical miles. And I don't know what the second trawler wanted, so I gave him 1 nautical mile. That should be enough, but always a little bit iffy when you don't know those distances. It's now 2:15 in the morning, and I have been struggling with the wind vane. It has just not been very cooperative. I'm not quite sure what the problem is. I have 10 to 11 knots of wind, but I'm doing a broad reach which brings the apparent wind speed down to about 8 knots. That's not a lot of power to act on the vane. Still, it ought to be enough, but I've tried every trick in the book, and no matter what I do, it steers for a while and then it just goes way off to one side or the other, and then I have to release the wind vane, get the boat back on course, try to fiddle with the vane, adjust it and set it to steer again, and it became quite tiring. So one of the things about this kind of journey is you have to economize and use all the resources wisely, and of course sleep is a scarce resource here, so I'll trade some rest for some battery power, in the sense that I've now engaged the electric autopilot. It uses quite a lot of power. I see we have now used, what is it, 28, let me see, 29 amp hours from full battery at 2 o'clock. Yeah, it's more than I would like, but I think I'll just keep going under the electric autopilot as long as the conditions are unchanged. If the wind speed increases, the apparent wind speed will crease as well, and that'll provide more power to the vane. But I think it's more important that I just don't stress myself out. I have many hours to go, many hours before I reach Farsund. So just take it easy now and let the battery do the work. And yeah, we shall see how it goes. 4:30, and already it is beginning to get light. Also, the waves have changed. We have gone off the deep end, so to speak. While we have been sailing on like 40-50 meters of water at the beginning of this voyage. In fact, on the first trip to Skagen, it's just about 20 meters. It's really quite shallow. But now we're into much deeper water, Skagerrak here. At this point we have about 400 meters of water under the keel. And you can really tell it's difficult to describe. Probably the sea is a little bit confused now because we have more of a mixture of waves and swell, but it's more comfortable with the longer waves, and it feels like ocean sailing again a little bit. It's good. It's very good. 5:40 in the morning, we have sunrise. So I go through my sunrise routine, which involves, well, first let's look at the soft underbelly, the bilge. Well, there is some water. I do have a tiny leak at the valve chest here. And whether that's what it is, or whether there's some additional water. Let's see here. Yeah, I think there's something from the aft head, and it could be a number of things. So it's not, it looks perfectly clean, apart from leftovers of the sponge that are floating down there. So it's probably a leak in the freshwater system. But I don't know where it is. I'll have to live with it for now. I don't keep the automatic bilge pump engaged because I want to see leaks, see the extent of them. If I just had it sucked out automatically, which I could do, then I wouldn't have a good idea of how much leakage I have. And with 17 pumps on this boat, it's a constant maintenance job. Anyway, that was a digression. The morning routine. Well, little things like we change colors back to day colors. We off the lantern, the masthead light, the instrument lights in the cockpit, and check the battery status. Minus 54. Yes, that's well, it's a lot, but I mean, if this was a multi-day journey, this would be irresponsible to run this low, but I will either get into harbour or I can run the engine if need be. But this is certainly not a balanced use, and that's due to the use of the electric autopilot. But we are not anywhere near danger here. And the last thing, of course, is that my headlamp comes off, and I then charge it. I have a USB plug here, and the headlamp has a USB chargeable lithium battery, so that it can be good for next time I want to go sailing at night. Oh, the last part of the sunrise routine, of course, is to start angling the solar panels. Doesn't make much difference when the sun just rises, but you want to get everything out of it you can. And during the day I will adjust it every 2 or 3 hours or something like that, as long as I'm sailing in the same direction. That's the case more or less for what I plan to do today. And I have done measurements as to the importance of turning the solar panels, and it's a lot. You get a factor 2 compared to just having them either vertical or horizontal all the time. So it's well worth doing when you really want to have solar power be the main source of electricity. 5:30 and it's breakfast time. We need some more coffee, gas, and the standard breakfast menu on Skagerrak for me consists of harbour grapefruit, and oats. Ta-da! And milk. And this is how I do all the cooking on Skagerrak, wedged in between this wall here and then this workplace here. Even when there's a lot of waves, it's perfectly fine to stand and work here. So, for example, I need to chop up something, do it like this, one thing at a time. And at the same time you have the gimbaled cooker, which is good for placing not just the kettle and the pots, but also other things. Now we have hardly anyone, so there's no need to put it there, but otherwise I will put it on the gimbal surface. And when I have cooked this or prepared this delicious milk, I will put it on the cooker as well and use that as a table. Every time I do it, I think of Laura Decker, the youngest person ever to circumnavigate the globe. She was my inspiration to become a long-distance sailor. And in her book she says that she found out that there was only really one good place to eat on her boat, Gopi, and that was in front of the cooker. And amen to that. It really is the best place. So there, and then this, and the milk. This goes back into the fridge. With the minimum number of opening and closing necessary, namely 2, so as not to waste electricity. And that goes in there, and this goes back in the cupboard. We're done. Yep, never fails. So you see, one figures out how to organize everything so that you can reach everything you need without ever leaving your support. Excellent stuff. Yeah. That's breakfast. Seven o'clock in the morning, and apparent wind speed of 8.3, true wind speed of 11.4 knots. And who knows how long this is going to continue. It's been very stable for the past, throughout the night. It was supposed to freshen, but that didn't really happen. So I'm going to take a chance now and put up the spinnaker. Hoping that it won't increase, the wind speed won't increase very soon, so that I at least get some hours of good spinnaker sailing before I have to take it down again. I'm not going to film it because it's a very slow and fairly complicated process doing this on Skagerrak. Here's the spinnaker in the bag, and you see the spinnaker pole out there. It's a big and heavy piece of equipment. So I take my time and do it very slowly. I'll get back to you if this works. Da-la, 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 da-la. Fuld spiler. Hvad vi har. Det ser godt ud. Fedt. So after another half an hour of tidying up and trimming, here's what it looks like now, and we've been able to fall off to course directly to our final destination, and I've secured the boom with a boom preventer, and otherwise the ropes for the spinnaker are the standard ones. That is, there's a topping lift, downhaul, and then a guy starboard side the green line, which goes down there, and to this winch down here, the green one. And on the port side there's the sheet that goes down through a couple of winches, blocks, led back to this winch here. And of course there's the halyard at the top. And there's a line for controlling the pole up and down. And there's a line for controlling the sock of the spinnaker. So a lot of moving parts, but once it's done, it's really nice. And what speed are we doing? Five knots on 8 knots of true wind speed, and that is according to the Hercules 290 computer 1986. That's 94% of optimal performance. So we are racing. Way to go, Kaka. I also just noticed that setting the spinnaker caught 3 hours off our expected arrival time. So now it's 20:38 rather than 23:30 thereabouts. Okay, this is was pretty stressful. I am just approaching a ferry route, very close to it now, and this ferry is thundering down towards me with 24 knots of speed, and I'm doing another 5 towards it. So scary stuff. Fortunately, I was able to contact him on the VHF, and he accepted that I maintain course and speed. So he's altered course a little bit, so he will fly past me at the distance of 1 nautical mile. If all goes well. So now it appears that we will pass each other at a distance of 1.1 nautical mile. That's a lot better than the 15 meters that was predicted when I first started dealing with this issue. So wow. See, you can see the green line here changed course. Whoops. Changed course there to avoid me. So you see the current battery balance is minus 65.2 amp hours. That is how far we are from a full charge. But now the sun has come out finally at 9:30, and that affects the net flow of power in the system is now positive. So if it's 1.4 amp that go into the system, into the batteries after the all the appliances, including the autopilot, have taken their share. So you see it's sometimes negative, sometimes positive. So you could say we've stopped the bleed of power, but we're still at a pretty low level. So good job. We are going to probably be able to get shore power tonight and top up the batteries. Otherwise I'd have to run the engine just to charge the batteries, and I hate doing that. I've fallen off a bit because I discovered that over here there is actually a dumping ground for explosives. Not something I have a particular interest in messing about with. So I've fallen off a bit, and boy are we sailing. We have 100% reaching performance now. We are doing 6.4 knots through the water on 12.6 knots of wind. So 100% performance. for a boat that was built in 1986. The spinnaker, I think it belonged to not the previous owner, not the owner before him, or her, not the owner before him, but the owner before him. So it's a Swedish spinnaker. And the mainsail has been across the Atlantic and back from one sails. The spinnaker is a North Sail spinnaker. So not exactly brand new boat, not exactly brand new sails, but boy does it sail. It's a pleasure. 100%. 90, 99, 100. Ah, way to go. 101, yay! Well, the wind has picked up. It's now 16 knots. Came very quickly from 13. And I promised myself I would take the spinnaker down when I reached 15 as a precaution. And we're doing 9.38 knots over the ground. What an amazing sail. Well, all good things come to an end, so now I have to fall off and take the spinnaker down before it gets too wild. So the spinnaker came down without incident. In fact, didn't even touch the water at all. So it's a nice dry spinnaker I packed. Pole came down without incident. And the wind is now varying between 15 and 18 knots. Our performance has dropped down to between 80, 86, 85. So clearly you pay a price. But this is much easier to handle, expecting more wind to come. I have not even unfurled the Genoa completely because it's quite tough to roll it in once the wind really comes up. So this is in preparation for more wind to come. And if need be, I can go up and reef the mainsail. We'll see how it goes. So far, so good. Some good news. Because the wind speed has now increased so much, it's blowing almost 17 knots. And I don't sail with the spinnaker. I get an increased apparent wind speed of 12 knots. And that's enough to make the wind pilot do the right thing. So it is finally steering the boat again. That's a big improvement, because then I don't use power for the electric autopilot. Also, it's a little bit more sunny. There's still a bit overcast. You can see the sun is not completely visible, but it does give some energy. In fact, we get about 160, 170 watts at the moment. So that's about 10 amps into the batteries. We just need that for 6 hours. And then we're back to full batteries. Of course, that's not going to happen. But this is a very nice development. So I apologize for all the wind noise. I'm sure there'll be a lot of it, because the wind has now picked up to 20 knots, solid fresh breeze, and I'm hand steering because I just love surfing down the waves. I think it's so much fun, and with the white caps all around you, I love it. And this is so good. This was forecast, and it's going to increase. The wind speed is going to increase to a gale tomorrow, which was also why well, there were several reasons, but I decided that it would be appropriate to stop tonight. The other reason being that I would be sleep deprived if I continued sailing without sleeping at all for another day, and in a gale not really advisable. So that's perfect. I'm pounding along here. I saw 10 knots over the ground a minute ago, 9.5, 10.1. Yeah, so this is great fun, and it's not going to be for very long. It's noon now, and if we continue at this pace, we'll be approaching Farsund around 4 o'clock. That's when I'll take down the sails and motor the last couple of miles in. Oh, there's a dangerous target. I have to figure out what's going on. Who's that? Pluto. Who's Pluto? A freighter. Oh, that's good. Neither a trawler nor a ferry. Oh, I see it way out there. There's no problem at all. We'll just hammer past them. All right, so all good fun. What a finale. Terrific. Hey, Norway, here we come. I think this must be Mandal. I've never sailed in these waters before, but that's what the chart says, so it's beginning to look like Norway. That's terrific. Still, let's see, 17 miles to go to get to Lindesnes, which will be a milestone, but that's just a couple of hours the way we're going. Well, the wind is up to 25 knots now, and I still have the full main, and it's great fun to surf down these waves on almost dead downwind, but it could increase to a lot more, so I think it's, even though I still have quite a long way to go, 27 nautical miles, I think the prudent thing is now to get a reef in that mainsail, and since it's going to be a wet affair, going into the wind to do the reefing, I might as well do 2 reefs and get it over with. So I'm not going to film that, but we'll see how it goes. Well, here's the final result. I ended up taking down the mainsail altogether and just having a little bit of Genoa rolled out. We're still doing 7.3 knots over the ground, so I mean it'll take an hour longer, but this is such more calm business. It was a total royal cock up when I tried to do the reefing, because I had forgotten that I had put out the stay for the staysail on the foredeck so that it wouldn't bang against the mast. This is something I did almost a day ago, so I'd forgotten all about it. So what happened when I then wanted to tack, to go over on port tack, I always go on port tack when I reef, because the winch for reefing, or the winches as it were, are on the port side. So I go to close hold course on port and then lower the mainsail and do the reef. But of course, and then in my tacking through against the wind, the Genoa got caught in that stay, and to make matters worse, as I was trying to pull it through, somehow the furler became unfurled. So suddenly I was having the full size of the furler of the Genoa and 20 knots of wind. I managed to get it rolled in eventually, and then I just decided I'll take down the mainsail altogether. There's so much wind that we can get in on this, and sure enough. So then I rolled the Genoa in and headed up. No, sorry, fell off and jibed under Genoa alone and got back on the course. But it takes one little mistake and suddenly you are dealing with some very heavy gear. 23 knots, rock and roll. We're approaching Lindesnes. Just to give you an idea, we started over here, Skagen, northern tip of Denmark. Sorry, there. And then we've sailed across Skagerrak with wind that was at first from northeast, and now it's almost due east. And Lindesnes is at the southernmost tip of Norway. And there are now some interesting challenges. First of all, you see I've stayed on the deep water here. It's between 400 and 500 meters deep here, and then it rises very quickly towards land. And as I explained earlier, I feel safest on the deep water, although it really pains me not to sail close along the Norwegian coast. I'm 5 miles out. 5 nautical miles out, so I can't really see things very well here. And it looks incredibly beautiful. Please, if any of you are Norwegians and know whether it's fine to sail along the coast close by, please let me know. I would love to be able to do it. But my concern is that because there is this very steep decline in depth, that there could be choppy seas, and who knows about the current. At the moment we have about 2 nautical miles of following current, and you see I don't have a lot of sail up still, just that little guinea, and we'll have to head up and then head up some more to go into the destination here, Farsund. And I've tested it out here with 2 to 3 knots of current as we have here. It's doable. Even though I just have that little bit of sail up, there's enough power in it with this wind to counteract the current. Now, who knows what the current is in there? But that'll become apparent soon enough. So what can I do if the current is even stronger in there? Well, I can power up the sails. I can roll out some more Jenica. I can also start the engine to give me some extra power, and I think those would be my options rather than beginning to mess with the mainsail again for such a short final approach. So this will be interesting, and when I then get into Farsund, look what awaits me. It's a maze. There's just obstacles everywhere, but I have oh, dangerous target. Doesn't look that dangerous. There are obstacles everywhere, but I've plotted a route through the maze, and should get me to Farsund, which is supposed to be really nice, and it'll certainly be protected. Oh, stop it. Alright, so that's the plan. So Lindesnes is in there, and we need to go in there. That is turned starboard, and the plotter says to turn 18 degrees. I think I'll add quite a bit on account of the current. Let me see what happens if I do 30 degrees change of. Here we are. Oops. Here we are. If I change the heading 30 degrees, that will be up somewhere there. What happens? A little bit too much. No, I think that's right on water. We'll go with that. I'll adjust the sail a little bit, but not a lot. So far so good. So in just a few seconds the depth has gone from, well, about 400 on the chart to now measure 225 on the depth sounder. Well, it's a bit rocky, but what do you expect? I mean, it blows quite a lot now, so no problem. Kaka just rides over it all. Hooray! We have now officially passed Lindesnes going west. This was what we never succeeded in doing last year because of all the problems on that trip, from engine problems to just one gale after the other that came from the west coast of Norway and then accelerated around this corner to create insane wind speeds. But no such thing today. We have a fresh breeze of 20-22 knots, and that's it. Perfectly manageable. And I haven't seen any problems with the shelf either. So we are now in somewhat lower water, and it's still perfectly manageable. We're now at 65 meters depth, and the seas are coming across here. I have to save this one. This was how we lost a panel in the Atlantic, exactly. Well, actually it was on the other side, so I better turn this up. Yeah. What can happen is that a wave rolls under the stern of the boat, and then comes up on the leeward side of the boat and then tears off the panel if it sticks out. So up to vertical with them. They should be okay. So when making a complicated approach like this maze I have to go through, what I do is I plot it very carefully on the chart plotter using real nautical charts as well, paper charts, and the chart of the plotter, of course. And then when I sail into it, I zoom right in. So now I have the scale here is 12 meters, so less than the length of Kaka. And I try to stay right within one boat length of that planned route. Although I can't really see much what's going on the screen. I'll just have to look around and see that I'm not obviously heading into a storm or something. And then trust the planning. Well, I must say this is spectacularly beautiful. It's really quite exciting. Wow. Uh-oh, a cruise ship. I wonder where it's going. Oh, crikey. Well, I chose the strategy to hide behind a cliff. No matter where it moved, it was zigzagging through the skerries. But it wasn't going the same way as I was going, so fortunately. Look at this lighthouse. Somebody's putting up a big Norwegian flag. I wonder why. Oh well. So here we have Farsund, or Farsund, as it's perhaps pronounced in Norwegian. Gosh, it's beautiful. Look at this mountain over here. Oh, it's nice. So I would like to be over on this side somewhere, because that's to windward, so that I will not be pushed against the pontoon, the bulwark, when the gale hits tomorrow. So here I am, moored at very picturesque Farsund. Look at this. Outside another boat, a bigger boat that has just come back from Svalbard, incidentally. It's a really nice place, and I'm going to stay here tomorrow because gale force winds are forecast. So you see, we've tied up with all the lines we could find, and all the fenders are brought out, because it's going to be quite nasty tomorrow, and we're not quite sure how well sheltered we're going to be. The wind is going to come from over there. In any case, 143 nautical miles from Skagen to excuse me, Farsund. So I arrived at 6 o'clock, having started at, was it not 4:30? So a long journey, about the same length as the trip from Skagerrak to Skagen. Anyway, it was a brilliant day of sailing today. Goodness me, that spinnaker sailing was fun, and even after I took down the spinnaker, the macho sailing down the surfing down the waves was a lot of fun, even though I did mess it up at the end when doing the reef. Oh well, not to worry. All is well. I've had my shower, and I feel a lot better. I've warmed some food, made some rice and chicken, and now I'm going to hit the sack and sleep all night, I hope, and sleep through the storm tomorrow, I hope.